Good evening, gentlemen.
How are we this evening?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Hey Cameron, how are you?
Excellent, Wayne. Yourself?
Good.
Good to hear.
Cameron, when we let Jonathan and Cody in, are they going to help you with the video?
Yeah, so we ended up slightly changing it. So it's a presentation on challenges.
Okay.
So we have like 4 or 5 clips, and one of them happens to be Jonathan's on like different challenges and like considerations and stuff like that. We were going to do a presentation on the new law changes, but figured that if we did that today, then someone would end up getting that confused and doing it in their game this weekend, and then there'd be a lot of issues. So
yeah, that was my suggestion, by the way. Just thought I would put that out there.
Yeah. Okay.
Your suggestion was to wait or to do it now?
To wait, because
Okay.
I knew who our audience was.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, we all know Wayne would report that to Rick Eddy right away, right?
There,
Oh,
there
immediately.
you go. There you go.
Okay.
Are you back? Are you back, Jonathan, from North Carolina?
Oh, I wasn't in North Carolina. That's Devin and Nick.
Oh, that was Devin. That's right.
Yeah, I've been here, just muling on high school games is what I've been doing.
The only way to do it.
That's right.
Okay. I've given all of you co-host power, so please use it as necessary this evening. I'm going to let everybody in.
Everyone is
Okay,
muted.
yeah, mute people. It's my favorite thing to do.
We're just going to give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Okay, welcome everyone to March 27th Zoom meeting. We're glad that you could join us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about conflict of interest, and we're going to do we're going to get a presentation on challenges with some video, and then of course we always have our questions at the end of the game. There we go. But please don't hold your questions until the end of the evening. You can ask them as we go. So we'll just get right into it. What does Richard know about conflicts of interest? So in my real job that pays me to cover the mortgage and that, I actually do healthcare compliance and ethics. I've been certified in that for the last 10 years, and I've worked in this field for the last 22 years. So I spend a lot of time with physicians, healthcare organizations, and sponsors trying to make sure that our relationships don't create conflicts of interest where the government will then come in and investigate us. So this knowledge is very transferable to the soccer community. And so tonight I'm going to try to hopefully give you a little insight on how you may be able to keep yourself out of potential conflict of interest situations. So what is a conflict of interest? And this is the definition of conflict of interest. It's a situation in which the concerns or aims of two different parties are incompatible. One that we're probably very familiar with is between elected officials and corporate lobbyists. I would say that our government does not do a good job of mitigating their conflicts of interest, but since they get to make up the rules, they get to decide that they don't have a conflict. It's also a situation in which a person is in a position to derive personal benefit from actions or decisions made in their official capacity. And I think this is the better place in which it kind of applies to us in the referee community. So conflicts can be real, your affiliation to a team and or you being related to a family member. Those two items are very hard for anybody to say that if you go and officiate a game in which you have a direct family member that plays for it, that is not a conflict of interest. Would anybody like to argue it the opposite of way on how it's not a conflict of interest to go and officiate a game in which you have a family member playing for, or you have a direct affiliation to that team? Okay, then we get into what I call the perceived conflicts of interest. One being your club affiliation. So if you play for Pac Northwest, let's say, it could be perceived that if you go and officiate Pac Northwest games, you have a conflict of interest because you're going to favor Pac Northwest over the opposing club because you play for that club. Perceived could also be a relative. So when we have direct family members as like a brother, a son, a daughter, a sister, those are pretty direct and pretty straightforward conflicts of interest. The perceived conflict of interest may be more of a distance relative, like a second cousin or a nephew. That is further removed, and although you may feel like you can handle that conflict, that actually is a situation you shouldn't put yourself in either. So in the soccer community, individuals wear many different hats. Sometimes they are a club officer, they may be a club employee, they could be a club parent, or maybe they're just a parent of a player. It's very important that if you as a referee have these other hats that you wear, when you come and officiate a match, you need to officiate it wearing your referee hat and shedding these other 4 hats that you may have. Any questions about that concept? Okay, so then we're going to get into some examples. Let's say a club officer officiates or wants to officiate a state cup game in which their club is playing in. Would we say that that is acceptable, or would we think that that's a conflict?
I'd say that's a conflict.
Yes, I would agree with you. Why do you feel that it's a conflict?
Well, so, a state level tournament, if you're a club officer, that the club has not just a interest prestige wise, but also financially, in, having an advantage there.
Yep. Yep, and definitely if the opposing team loses, I'm gonna feel like they have a pretty good argument of how you probably as a club officer should not be officiating that game. What about the sister referees, their brother's U10 game? Somebody think, so I think Justin said that that sounds good.
That should be okay. It's a U10 game.
Okay, so what makes a U10 game any different than a U17 game?
I think the U10 is a development game.
Okay,
Is
So-
the sister going to be harder on her brother and their team?
yeah, I would say that even though it's a U10 development game, I would not recommend the sister refereeing that game.
Not unless
Especially,
there's not any other options, right? We're also living in the reality of shortages and whatnot, but that'd be the last resort, I would think.
so Jeremy, you brought up a great point here. I think what's important here is that sister should not be signing up on the website to take their brother's games. If the sister shows up to the game and there's no referee to officiate the game, and both coaches are okay with the sister officiating the game, then I think that that's okay. Because your conflicts have been provided to both coaches in which they can make an informed decision. And I think it gets back to the comment earlier about it's a U10 development game. So probably in the big picture of things, it does not matter as much. But I think what's important in that conversation is, one, the sister isn't taking upon themselves to go sign up and do their game so they can get paid to officiate their brother's game and create that conflict. And by waiting and doing it, if there's nobody else to do it, then they are providing a service so that that game can continue. Anybody have any other questions or comments about example number 2?
Yeah, Richard, if I could just offer, I mean, this happens to me fairly often where I'll be working games at the same field, planning to watch my kid's game, and then an AR doesn't show up, and the coach asked me to do it, and I make it a point to speak directly to both coaches and let them know exactly, my kid plays on this team. We don't have a referee. I'm happy, and I try to avoid centering period dot, just for my own personal, because I don't know if I could be entirely, but I'll say, look, I'm happy to AR, but you need to know I'm going to do the best I can to call it straight up, but you need to know my kid is on this team, and if that's a problem, then I won't do it. And often the coaches both say we'd rather have an AR than not. So, but yeah, it happens, to the comment before, if we live in a world of shortages, it happens a lot.
So Kevin, that's a perfect example of how you're mitigating your conflict by sharing that information with both parties involved so that both parties can make an informed decision on their own. And they could decide, the opposing team could decide, you know what, we find it to be more of a potential problem for us of that parent running that line and ARing that game than if we had nobody. So we're going to say, no, we think we're good, we'll just have one AR. Or they can say and make the decision on their own, wow, it would be better to have 2 ARs, so offside's going to be called equally on both halves of the games for both teams. And so we're gonna take that chance that this parent / referee is going to be isn't going to be biased. Any other questions, comments about example number 2 there?
Hey, Richard, this is Darren. I've got
Yep.
a broader question, I think. Obviously, this is something that's come up to your attention. And I'm wondering how broad this issue is and what kind of noise does that create for you so that we have a bit of context.
Yeah. So this comes up and has come up more recently, more often recently. I'm going to tell you that I actually got a complaint for a club officer officiating their state cup game for a state cup game in which their club was playing, and of course the other team lost, and that other team was not happy. I don't get a lot of complaints about when the relatives step in to cover a game because there's no refs at the field. I do get complaints when I hear about referees who go and sign up for games prior to the game when it is a relative that's playing on it. And so that is something that's definitely, it's unacceptable. And I don't know how anybody as a referee could feel like that it's acceptable for you to sign up for a relative's game. And so that way you can get paid to watch it. So that's just a one that we should stop immediately if anybody on here is doing it.
All right. Thanks, Richard.
Yeah. And then this other one, the parent referees club game for the club their kid plays for. Again, Darren, following up on your question, do I get this complaint very often? No, because I think pretty much every club has referees in which they have an affiliation with the club in which they're officiating for. It's just how we get our games covered. We can't get people to be able to drive a distance to go do games, so that way nobody in which they have an affiliation with is on those games. But again, I think it's important that you're cognizant of that knowledge by hopefully not wearing your Pac Northwest jacket to go referee a Pac Northwest versus Valor game. That's why we all buy referee gear. So that way, when we show up, we look like a referee and we're not wearing our kids or our siblings club gear. Anybody have any questions about these three examples?
Yeah, Richard, is a follow-up for that point 3. So my son just graduated from PAC. So I'm relieved.
There you go.
I am open now.
So I'm going to use some school examples because school examples also get me into trouble. A referee officiates a varsity game that their child plays for the C team. How many of us here feel like that is a conflict of interest or not? All right, Jeremy feels like that's a conflict. So I agree with that. Hopefully the varsity coach isn't there and watches your really bad officiating job in which the C team loses and they think it's your fault, which then affects your kids' playing time on the varsity game. We'd hope that would never be done, but by not putting yourself in that situation, you don't have to worry about that really bad officiating job that you did and not affecting your child's playing time. But in reverse of that, although C teams in the big part also is seen as developmental, like what was said earlier in regards to a U10, I also say, again, where we have it, if that you're there to watch the game and, well, most likely you're not going to watch a game, but again, when it gets to the field and you're asked to do it because there's no other referees around, again, we've got everybody who is being transparent and are informing the opposing coaches of that relationship. How about the referee officiates a varsity game where their child goes to school? So number 2 there. Do we think that that is a conflict or not a conflict? All right, Jeremy, he still feels like that's a conflict, and I would agree with that. Even though you don't have a relative that plays on the varsity game, you still have somebody that's affiliated with that school. And if that opposing team finds out, you've now created yourself a situation and where you are viewed as having a conflict and probably favoring the home school. And if you don't think that people don't know where you're from, I will tell you differently, because when I was officiating high school varsity matches before my kids were even in high school, I had opposing high schools that when I officiated Tahoma, because that's where my kids would be going, they knew I was from Maple Valley, and they would yell from the stands that I was biased, even though I had no kids there. Referees officiate the varsity game, same league their kid plays on varsity for. Do we think that's a conflict or not a conflict?
I say that's a conflict because it could be just one of those things where they would say that you're throwing the game for the other team. And I also have a conflict in the basketball world where there's a gym that I actually have an advertisement for my business in the gym. So I will not do any games in there, because the last thing I need is the opposing team parents to be texting me about all my bad calls.
So, Paul, that's a great example of where your professional life intersects with the soccer community, in which that if you put yourself in that situation, definitely people could feel that you had a conflict, because the school, you're paying the school to be able to have an advertisement in their gym. And so you're motivated to make sure their team wins, and could potentially throw that game. So I do encourage people to stay away from the varsity games where they have kids that play in that same league. You know, we're kind of lucky in which we have several different leagues in our area. So you really don't need to go and officiate the games in the same league that your kid plays in. Any questions about these 3 examples on this slide? Okay, at that point, we will just open it up for any other questions that you may have had before we started this presentation tonight on conflicts of interest, and I did not cover.
Hey, Richard, if I can just offer one additional comment. It goes back to the third example from the first set of refereeing for the club that your kid plays on, not necessarily his team, which we all do. I think I find myself constantly, trying to be hyper aware of that potential bias and fighting it, and calling the games. And, full disclosure, I had a situation this weekend where I absolutely should have sent a coach off for conduct. And in the heat of the moment, I think I hesitated and I didn't, partially because he was a club coach for my home club, and wrong call. But that's a challenge, because I'm constantly trying to force myself to make sure I'm not having that bias.
Yeah, Kevin, that is a great example. The one other piece I didn't put in here, I forgot and I thought about, is that I really encourage referees not to, I talked about the example of the varsity game and you as a ref calling a bad game for the C team and then your kid losing playing time. I carry that over to club. There's so many clubs now where coaches coach several different teams. I encourage you that not to officiate any of the games that your coaches, that your kids have, coach or referee any of their other teams. Because what happens if something goes wrong? Or Kevin, that's a perfect example where you need to issue misconduct to them because they are not being appropriate in their technical areas. And that's going to be a very awkward situation the next time you run into them at the next game for your kid. So that's another good example of where you may work of another group of people you want to stay from if you are doing your own clubs teams. Okay, it's gotten quiet, so
I
think-
have something to add there, if you don't mind, Richard.
No, go ahead.
One thing that I see, and I'm find myself in the habit or conscientious about sometimes, is there's sometimes where you'll actually see a coach more often than the other, and to make sure that you balance your time and your communication equally between the two, so there doesn't look like any favoritism, even though there isn't. You just happen to know them a little bit more and more comfortable talking with them. So make sure that there's that balance, to make sure that there's not that feeling of more familiar with the opposing team.
Yeah. And please do not think that your assigners know all of your relationships and that it's the assigner's job to make sure that you're not seeing teams you shouldn't. There's no way that, we have 1,500 referees that are registered on Northwest Soccer Officials to officiate games here. And there's 13 different assigners that assign those referees. And there's no way that we can keep track of what club you necessarily have relatives that play there. We can't keep track of where you have, what schools you have affiliations with. Arbiter, when I learn of it, I try to go in and block people. And I know there's people on here who, even after their kids graduated, still couldn't get to go do the games at the school that their kids went to. But eventually we figured it out and I undo the blocks. But this really is each individual referee's responsibility. And I'm sharing this information because it has come up. And so it's something that I don't think we cover very well in the referee world. And I'm hoping that today's information I shared with you will help you make better informed decisions in the future. And, please don't feel bad that you may have done one of these things that I said tonight is a conflict of interest and you shouldn't do. You've learned something new and now hopefully you'll take that knowledge and use it appropriately. But please, when you do have a conflict and the assigner is asking you to do something that creates that conflict, you just need to communicate to the assigner to say, hey, did you know? And then that way the assigner can make a informed decision. And again, we often have steps that we can take to mitigate that conflict by sharing it with the teams that are involved. So with that, I'm going to move us along and turn it over to Cameron, Cody, and Jonathan, I believe.
That would be correct. All right.
It's the trifecta tonight.
Yeah, all three of us working overtime to make sure people stop Zoom bombing.
Well, then your guys' presentation should be 3 times better than mine.
Don't put that pressure on us.
Richard, can I get a co-host as well, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect, good start. Hopefully I don't crash out like Jonathan. All right. So today we are talking about challenges in the game of soccer. And just to remind everyone, these are the considerations for a challenge. So the speed, intensity, force, those are just really fancy ways of saying the careless, reckless, and excessive force challenges as defined in IFAB. Whether it's a challenge for the ball or there's a possibility to play the ball, what the point of contact is, what the mode of contact is, and the distinction between that is point of contact is obviously where the contact is made on the receiving end. And the mode of contact is what is making contact with the on the receiving end. So the mode is what makes contact at the point of contact. I think that makes sense. If that doesn't, we'll clear that up a little bit. And whether or not it's a clear movement or second action. So with that, we have, Jonathan, how many clips did we pull? 5?
Yeah, I think it's 5, and we'll get through these pretty quick.
Or at least in theory. We hope to get through all 5. If not, the last one's the doozy. So go from it. Go about it from there.
Did you optimize for video, Cameron?
I did not.
Yeah, it's a bit slideshowy.
Can you make it full
Lovely.
screen? Can you make it full screen too?
Oopsies. Go back.
Yeah, if you go out of the slideshow and then full screen it, should.
All right. I'm still in the video. Get out of the video. Zoom, please. Thank you. All right. Okay, now Zoom's just misbehaving on purpose. Okay. So this challenge is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, right? It's a little bit hard to see in the video, but you have God, I knew what his name was at one point, but now I don't. But you have the Crystal Palace player in the red and blue stripe coming in, and it is not a challenge for the ball, and there's no possibility to play the ball, obviously, because it's over here and his leg's here. The point of contact is the player's shin. The mode of contact is the studs on the bottom of his foot with a straight leg. And the speed, intensity, and or force, in this case, we would say is excessive force because he's coming at the player from a distance and lunging into the jackal with the straight leg, studs exposed, making contact on the shin, right? This is what we would consider an excessive force challenge and a red card. Pretty simple so far.
Cameron, can I add something onto that?
Absolutely.
So just more as a practical guidance for helping you in these situations. One of the telltale signs that something bad is about to happen is when a player, attacker, a defender, they take a big touch right towards a player. That's usually a telltale sign that a big collision, a big challenge is about to happen. And it's those moments where, as officials, kind of the hairs on the back of our neck kind of stick up and we go, oh, we've seen this about 1,000 times. And so that's where you kind of need to start walking towards play, getting in an angle, moving yourself so that you are able to see what is about to happen. Because more oftentimes than not, I have found that these types of challenges happen from players taking a big touch or miscontrolling and then coming in for a late challenge to try and recover. So just something to keep in mind when you're going back out
All right, Jonathan, I'll let you take this one since this is your clip.
Oh gosh.
Is there any way we can make it full screen? It's still in a little small box in the middle.
I am full screened on my end, so I'm not sure if I can make it any bigger.
Cameron, you're using a 49-inch monitor. That's why you need to move it to a different monitor.
All right, one moment.
Man.
Bear with me for a quick technical pause.
Yeah, Wayne, I think this guy needs my services too.
All right, can we
Well,
also?
at least he didn't crash.
Yeah, that's true.
That's much better.
Yeah, much better. Thank you. Way to go, Cody.
Yeah, way to go, Cody. You're doing good.
See, I didn't have this problem when I was sharing on a 49 inch because I knew what I needed to do.
Yeah, so ignore this guy in green. He's not giving you the answer. You want to play it one more time?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this goes on for some time.
Yes, it does. Yeah, just go ahead and yeah, play it again. All right, next slide. Get me out of here. Okay, so I will preface this by saying, yes, that guy in green is me. This was a game from a while ago. So I will open this up to you guys to kind of fill in the video's too choppy to see. So basically, it is a aerial challenge. One player goes straight up in the air. The other one very much goes through the back of the other player. And then there is a slightly blurry still image that kind of puts together the result of the challenge. We have one player who is very much okay, and the other one who is going nowhere fast. So I will open this up to the floor because anybody tell me, giving either light, medium, or heavy force, could someone opine on what kind of level of force we have here? Okay, someone gonna make me.
At a minimum, it's reckless. At a minimum, right? I don't.
Okay.
The video was a little choppy, but it didn't seem like he played the ball and just ran through the player. Very, to me, it seems excessive. That's my personal opinion, but at a minimum, it's reckless.
Sure. Okay.
Also have an excessive force in the chat.
Okay. Anybody else have any other answers in there?
Shows no regard for the safety of the opposing player from the person who also says excessive force.
Okay. Anybody else want to add anything before we move on to the next point? Okay, so I will elaborate on how I was feeling first before we move on to the challenge for the ball. And I think what maybe might help you guys a little bit here, just because the video is not the best quality since it's a little bit blurry. The ball was there, I promise. It looks very bad from where it is. I would agree that it is medium force, but Joseph, I can certainly see your argument. This is one where I will also add that this player was also on a caution. So keep that in mind as we go along. So just to kind of reiterate, challenge for the ball in the moment, as the referee in this moment in time, I deemed it a challenge for the ball that went very wrong, is how I felt. Anybody want to go on the point of contact? This one's pretty simple. Someone really quick. It could be even Richard or Cameron or Cody.
I've seen this too many times, but I will. Joseph said, "Thank you for bailing me out because I didn't want to say it." Looks like a knee to the back.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would say that there was a lot of contact. For me, from where I am, it seemed like it was more just the body / forearm into the back. The knee into the back was not what I saw in the moment. So just something to add there. Not saying that you're wrong. No, not saying that you're wrong, Joseph. Just saying that in the moment, going back to this point in time, that was what I saw when I saw the challenge initially. However, my mind has been changed very much after watching this video after preparing for this presentation. So we'll say for the point of contact, knee to the back, forearm to the back, both are relevant. Mode of contact, we said point of contact was the back slash upper body, upper back of the player. Mode of contact being the knee or forearm. And then is there one more part to this? No. So given all of that, if I were to go back and reflect on this one, and for those of you who do these academy games, if you have challenges like this, I would encourage you to go back and go look, even if you know that you nailed it or you feel like you nailed it, because I'll be honest, I felt like I made the right decision in this moment after this video clip. Now, we can all watch this together and go, yeah, no, that's at least a yellow card, right? But in the moment, because of where I was, I thought I was right. So if I were to go back, caution would be the easy choice. But kind of going along Joseph's line, this one is kind of right at that border for me, right at that border where it's orange. You could certainly argue for a red card, like Joseph pointed out. I think yellow card is the easy choice, and then him being on a second caution, that is where you would have to give out that red anyways, accomplishes the same goal. So looking back on this, I wish that I had given the caution, but I didn't. So that is my moment.
And going back to the comment that Jonathan made about the Academy games, if you want the footage for those games, reach out to your assigner. I know most of the assigners are on the VO accounts for the Academy clubs. Don't ask me and Cameron for ISC gunners because we don't have them yet. We're still working on that. But most Academy games in NSO, we have access to the footage and we can get it to you within a few days' time. So then you can use that as a tool to go back and reflect upon the game, what worked, what didn't work, what are some things I want to tweak, that kind of stuff.
That also goes
And-
for most of the ECNL games as well.
And then just take it with a grain of salt because you're working with a singular camera and not 1900 cameras in a professional environment.
Hey,
So Jonathan, I want to thank you for sharing this video. And I'm going to build on it in the aspect of the email that I sent out last night to all high school referees, that my expectation on this as an assigner would be that this is a second yellow and that the player gets sent off. And I think, Jonathan, your point in regards to, you could probably argue a red here, a straight red. And I think that's important as officials that we're contemplating that as this play developed on Jonathan, because depending upon what you may need to manage the overall game, the yellow might be the right decision here, or the straight red might be the right decision to be able to communicate to the rest of the players in regards to what your expectations are of their behavior for the rest of the match. So just some other things to build on what you already shared there, Jonathan.
Yeah, and Adrian, I think you and Richard kind of share the same sentiment that maybe a straight red card there would manage the game better, depending on the temperature, right? If it's been a very hot game, then can we move this guy?
Somebody's playing with Janet. Somebody's playing with your annotations.
We're being Zoom bombed. We're being Zoom bombed.
Unshare your screen.
Unshare your screen.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, and then reshare it.
Can I make one more comment, Jonathan?
Yes.
In this case, I think you could argue to call what was expected, and I think in this case, nobody would have faulted you or argued with you or challenged you if you would have shown a yellow card in this situation, because the challenge was, more on the careless, and like you said, probably flirted with an orange at best, so
exactly.
Call what's expected.
I know Darren had a question, or at least had one before everyone else started talking. So I wanted to give Darren a chance to ask his question.
No, thanks, Cody. Yeah, where I was gonna lead into this is what was the temperature of the game and how does that impact your decision-making process? So, yeah, I think we covered that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Let's move to the next one. So I think we all know what he wants to do about a high school game.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we think for point of contact and mode of contact? Pretty hopefully it's pretty self-explanatory. This is probably the best example you're gonna get for what it should be. Point of contact right on the kneecap. And the mode is with the studs of a straight leg. Speed, intensity, force. Pretty hefty force. Pretty decent speed because he's trying to challenge for a ball in a terrible fashion. And it's a reaction, so the intensity is there as well. Opportunity to play the ball? Not really. He's already missed it by a few seconds. Challenge for the ball? You could argue that he really wasn't challenging for the ball. So this is an easy send-off, is basically what this video should be displaying is. This is a prime example of this is a red card for X, Y, and Z.
So we're all in agreement here that this is a red card. And I just want to make the point that since we have all come to this determination, this apparently isn't a yellow card in this league. I don't want to throw out which league this is to throw the officials under the bus, but apparently we got this decision right and the officials did not, because they didn't even give a yellow card to this.
And look at where the referee is.
Hey,
Yeah,
congratulations, guys. Better than Premier League.
Yeah. Guys are pros already. Look at you guys.
Yeah, referee's in a fantastic position. This should be a red card all day. Studs the kneecap is not, it's not an intelligent challenge for the ball. Right. Moving on. We might actually get through all five, which is not what I was not what I was expecting today.
Ooh.
So remember when Jonathan said earlier in the presentation that there's some moments in the game where you can just tell something's going to happen, like a big touch towards another player? This is one of those moments. You could very clearly see this was going to happen from a mile away.
Also, another way that you can tell is challenge on the player. Player goes down, immediately appeals to the referee, gets up, and sprints over to the player that just fouled him. There's another indicator right there. If you see that in a game, nothing good is going to happen. And for any of you guys, for any of you Sounders fans that were paying attention to the Sounders back in 2011, something like this similarly happened and ended up with a broken leg for one of the Sounders, Steve Zakwani. So, is there animations on this slide too? Oh, there is. So let's go through this, and I'll go through this quickly because I think we all knew from the first watch what the answer is going to be. Force, oh my God, it's excessive. Point of contact, do we fully know? Could be ankles, could be mid-leg. Kind of hard to see on the video. The mode of contact, literally the guy's entire body, just throwing himself into the challenge. You could make a point for studs being exposed, among other things. But yeah, this is a red card. And then Jonathan wanted to make a point about the referee position. So I'm going to go back to the video and let Jonathan talk his thing with the referee position and fourth involvement.
Yes. So we have GA games now on the NSO site. And so that means that a lot of us are going to be doing our first fourth officials. So I don't know if any of you have ever been, either taught or have looked at documentation on kind of the roles and responsibility of the fourth official, but this, and I'll use the annotate correctly, like the other guy, this area right here is right where the fourth official's area of involvement is. And the reason why I have a problem with this is because, one, the fourth official knows exactly what is about to happen. And I feel like he had a good opportunity here where he could have been the star and become involved here and got to this player right away. Because ultimately, what happens after that challenge happens is that everybody converges right to where his area of involvement is, and he is over to the left and out of the way. And by the time the referee can get in there and show the red card, no one can see that he's giving out the red card. So the other thing that I wanted to opine on, less the fourth official one. So Cameron, if you could go back to the previous freeze frame that you had, that was actually a perfect place. So the other part of this too is that as the center referee, I feel like also, kind of as Cameron and myself alluded to, you can feel this challenge coming. And so what are we told more often than not? That this area right in here is a very sensitive area to have these challenges in. So when you know that this challenge is coming, why not start creeping into here so that way your presence can be felt right away? Because again, I felt like between the fourth official and the center referee, they had an opportunity here to be able to solve this whole thing before it became a huge dust up. Now, mind you, tensions are going to be high because that's a ridiculous challenge, but we could have prevented a lot of what happened. Is the way that I feel. So if anybody has any comments about that or any questions about that, but as a general guideline, fourth officials, your involvement, the technical area, but also on the field can be, this area right here. And that's something in your GA matches where you are a fourth official, that is something that you should discuss with your center referee. How involved do you want me to be in this area? Do you want me to step up to the touchline when these challenges are coming? Do you want me to signal anything when these challenges happen? Do you want me to give you any sort of body language, like for caution or for send off? That sort of thing. These guys are on mics, so he can just say it into a comm piece and get it done. But can we accomplish that on our GA games where things like this can happen?
If this player, the Jonathan has circled, if he doesn't get fouled and get up in an attitude and make this challenge, the referee's proximity to play, removing this stupid challenge is pretty good, right? But when you have the player that's going to ground immediately appealing to you and then getting up and sprinting to an opponent, that proximity is not close enough. He's now too far. Because if he's 5 yards closer to, I keep on holding my pen up as if there's people in front of me, but anyway, if he's like 5 yards closer to play, there's likely at least 6 players that's probably not going to be into that scrum. You're probably still going to have a scrum, but you're going to have less people in because they're going to feel your presence a lot faster and they're going to see your presence a lot sooner, and it's going to help calm things down. But yeah, too far away from this temperature of a challenge.
And if you want another great example of referee proximity to stuff happening right in front of the technical areas, All you need to do is go watch a certain World Cup match between Argentina and the Netherlands, and you'll find out very quickly which incident I'm referring to.
I think we also did a presentation on that in December.
Who didn't do a presentation on that, honestly?
Yeah,
I think everyone's done one.
Yeah.
that clip was a gold mine.
So did the three of you talk about the first foul that didn't
There
get
you go,
called here?
Richard.
Yeah.
There you go, Richard.
How do we avoid
Well,
all this? Just call the first
Sorry,
foul.
did I give that away? So
Let me back up a bit.
And I bring that up because I think you guys have done a fantastic job illustrating, one, expectations of a fourth official in which we don't get a lot of opportunity to share footage on. And, you know, we have the academy games, but we also have high school playoff games. And I know our high school playoff games this spring are going to be probably a little more lively than they were in the fall. So I think this is a great, and you guys talking about what should the fourth official be doing, because that fourth official, in my opinion, should have been up there to the yellow player, protecting him as best he could to maybe prevent all the other people coming in, because they would see that the fourth official is taking action. But going back to my first question about the first foul, you know, Mo always talks to us about the happy zone. And this is such a perfect example of where the referee definitely did not follow Mo's advice in regards to that first contact of whatever it was.
You lose
Crazy
nothing
how
by
calling
calling
a
it.
simple foul in the middle of the fields would it solve so many problems in so many cases.
Like a red card and a mask call, because now you have paperwork to do when you could have just called the foul.
Is
All right.
this also an area where the fourth official could have helped make that call as well?
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Yes.
I've had referees say, if you have a foul close to you, I want you to do X, Y, and Z and give me the information. Because
Whether or not the referee like actually listens to that advice and goes with it, completely different story. But if you're providing the information and things still blow up, you at least did your job.
Because if you've had the opportunity to work with beeper flags or comm devices, the fourth official is essentially one of those. They are a tool for information that you need, that as a fourth official, you need to be conveying information as you have it. Then it is completely up to the center referee to do with that information what they will. But your job is to provide information when it's needed to hopefully not have an incident like this.
Can you walk through the logistics of how that fourth official would call that foul? He's not holding a flag that I can see, assuming there's no beeper comms system in place. What does he do to get that center ref's attention to call the foul?
So I've had some referees who say, who have told me as a fourth official, if you have a foul, and because we don't have comms, I want you to step up to the line and put your hand up, or I want you to put your hand to your mouth and signify that you have a foul, or point a direction with your arm. And if it's a really hard challenge, I don't want you to be discreet about it, because when we're asking fourth officials to help us with direction, we want them to kind of keep it low key. But when we have a bigger challenge, that's when we kind of need to step in and make ourselves bigger and more known. So it truly comes down to the preparation in pregame. I cannot stress that enough.
And also, depending upon who you're working with, I know a lot of the officials that I work with, I will wander 10 yards both ways from midfield. So basically that 20-yard stretch, wandering back and forth with the flow of play, constantly getting eye contact and making sure my body is in vision with the referee when I'm the fourth official. And I will try to also not hold the clipboard for the whole game to keep my hands free for those incidences.
Great points.
It's all about pregame. Yep. All about pregame.
So we got one more, but we have a minute left and I don't want to keep people. So Richard, if you really want us to show the last clip, which is an MLS clip, we can. Otherwise, I think this is a good stopping point if you just wanted to cut it here.
Let's do, I always try to give people an opportunity to ask questions. If you guys are willing to stick around, we can show the clip here in a minute for those that want to stay. But does anybody have anything, questions that they wanted to ask tonight that we hadn't gotten to already?
I have two questions, Richard, if you don't mind.
Uh-huh.
The first one, and they both involved situations this weekend where I was refereeing. One was just a U10 game, obviously no ARs. When does an advantage in the penalty box cease to happen? I guess what happened was I saw a clear foul, but the player fought through that foul in the penalty box. He had a chance at goal. It wasn't one-on-one, but he had a chance. He took the shot, goalie blocked it. And I didn't award the PK. But, and I heard the coach saying, how is that not a penalty? And it was, but I thought he had the advantage, took a shot, you don't get a double dip. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends.
My personal thought process is if there was a foul and they got the shot off, then did they necessarily lose their advantage? I would say no. So I would probably have a quiet word with the player and just be like, hey, I know you're trying to win the ball and not let them score, but you did foul him and I need you to calm down a little bit. Something like that. If he just completely, it's really just, it depends on the situation and the play.
Okay.
What I would say, KD, is that once you've made a decision in regards to that they have an advantage and they take a clear shot on the goal, it's very difficult to now sell pulling back and calling a foul. So I think at that point, you've made your decision that that the player has a clear advantage of the scoring opportunity. And if it doesn't come to fruition, you just unfortunately get to deal with the coach who would have been happy if the shot would have gone in the goal, but is unhappy because it didn't.
Yeah, so that was my reasoning as in the moment that he got the shot off. And I didn't think he got the advantage, he got the shot off and you don't get a double dip. I don't know. I mean, that's double dip is just, it's a slang term. It's not anything in the laws of the game, but
no,
anyways,
it's not, but,
yeah.
But that's how I would describe it as well.
Right. Okay. And my second question is, I was AR and it was an experienced center ref who called a PK, called a foul in the box. He and I talked about it after the game. And what I saw clearly was that the defender had inside position, did not make contact. The player tried to step on the ball and fell over by himself. And that's what I saw. Had the referee come and talk to me, I would have told him there is no foul. What is referee etiquette? I'm not going to overrule him as the AR, but both from a center perspective and from an AR perspective, what's the logistics of trying to get the right call? As a center, you want to be decisive. So you're not going to go to the AR and say, well, what did you think? But as an AR, you're not going to overrule your center. But the wrong call, in my opinion, was made. And the reason that him asking me about it showed that he had doubt about the call as well, right? So I want to get your thoughts on what's referee etiquette in that situation.
So I'm going to go back to the comment earlier about how pre-games are so important. Because that is an opportunity in which if the referee gives you a protocol in which to follow, if they have made a wrong decision, you then can follow that protocol so that then the decision may get corrected. I'm not sure in this instance how often that's really going to happen. At the least, I would encourage you as an AR to have a conversation with the referee at the end of that half or at the end of the game to say, hey, you remember that play, you know, from my angle, this is what it looked like to me, and this is why you got so much grief from, you know, the X team or whatever,
Right.
if that's the case. So although you may not get that call correct because you don't have a mechanism to do it, you're still helping that referee be a better referee for future games based on the information you have for that referee to be able to develop.
And is your thinking the same with the center referee being a super experienced versus a high school who just started this year?
So I think super experience can make just as many mistakes as a
Right.
just started this year. So I'm not sure that that's as much into it. You know, sometimes the center refs, when they make a call like that, they may look over and you may be able to get their attention to say, hey, I got something for you. So then that way the referee could potentially change their mind, which is going to be very messy in that situation. Because I think you said they called a penalty kick.
Yep.
But you do have a chance that they may decide to change their mind. But I think what's important as ARs, that we're assisting the referee, we're not insisting and asserting ourselves.
Right. Okay. Thanks for those comments.
Anybody have any other questions they wanted to ask?
So I had one that I'm bringing back from my kids' tournament in Las Vegas this past weekend. They were using the dual system in the tournament.
Okay, I don't want to talk anymore.
But
there's
it
no
has
dual
nothing to do
system
with the
for us.
dual. When is it appropriate to move a player out of where you as the referee want to stand? And we had a couple of instances where actually he physically pushed our players out of the position so he could stand where he wanted to be.
Don't touch
I'm
the
not sure
players.
any of us want to answer that question.
So I would go back to that. As referees, we should not be placing any of our bodies on any player's body in any way. And so to move a player physically out of a spot in order for us to get in a position in which we want, I don't think is appropriate. And I think as referees, you know, we're part of the field, but the field does not insert itself into the space of the players, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. So as somebody who has done the dual system in high school in California, I will say that either it's a dual, a solo, or a 3-person crew, you don't do it.
Yeah.
That's
Does that help,
I guess-
Richard?
I guess really what I want to say is I was very impressed by the quality of all of you guys after that tournament.
You are not the first referee who has returned from Vegas to let me know that the officials up here are much better.
And I'm gonna kind of piggyback on what Richard said, because at ISC we've had this incident, so this is a perfect time to bring it up. 2-referee system is outlawed by USSF. Please do not do it on any of our games. It is a gigantic liability issue.
I would
Please don't do it
echo
on
that.
any affiliated games. If you're doing an unaffiliated game, you know, that's the gray area. That's, you know, whatever. But if it is affiliated, don't do the 2-man system.
Yep. I would echo what Cody said, and having been in another state where they did use the dual system for high school, it's a mess. Nobody
nightmare.
controls the center. There's a reason why USSF doesn't do it. Don't get sucked into that trap.
And
Yeah,
I'd also like to remind you that in Washington State, high school plays under U.S. soccer rules. So therefore, except for the modifications that the WIA has made. And that is not one.
Yes. It is either you have, in all cases, you will have one center referee and at least one AR or two ARs. Unless you're doing like a JV or a C team game, then you're a solo referee. But for most games on NSO that are affiliated, actually, pretty sure 90% of our matches are affiliated. Richard could correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
For the affiliated USSF games, one center referee and an AR, or a center referee and two ARs. There is no two center referees allowed by US Soccer.
Right.
Or the state.
And there's a really good reason for that, so don't buck the system.
Okay, I know that we're 10 minutes over already. I want to make sure those that feel like they got to get to other things tonight, please feel free to do that. I did say that we would share the last video for those that want to stick around and see it. So I don't know if Cody or Cameron was the one that was showing us the videos or not, but if you want to bring up the last one.
Give me just a second. All right. This is the final clip. Yes, the quality sucks. I got it like this, unfortunately. Again, ignore the decision that the referee makes. All right. So this is an interesting one because the on-field decision was a red card, and then VAR got involved, and then it was changed to a yellow card. So also, I'm just now realizing how bad this still image is, so I apologize. So I'm going to start with the point of contact and the mode of contact. The point of contact is the side of the right leg of the Austin player, and the mode of contact is the side of the leg of the sliding RSL player. There is quite a bit of force. You could argue medium force, you could or reckless force, you could argue excessive force. Personally, I see this as more reckless force than excessive. But the reason that it was downgraded from red to yellow is actually explained in the inside video review that I have linked at the bottom here. But essentially, because the player completely misses the challenge, essentially, there is not enough of the considerations are marked off for it to be a red card. Right. So, you have, this essentially comes down to just being a reckless challenge instead of an excessive force challenge that's endangering the safety of the opponent or serious foul play or anything like that. So yeah, I threw this one as a curveball because it was a red card that got downgraded to a yellow. And Greg Barkey will do a better job of explaining it than I ever will, because he gets paid to do it.
Yep.
Now
So-
let's talk about man management. This is a great challenge, not literally, but it's a great challenge to get a player in your back pocket. Because once you pull that caution out, you can just say, you are very, very lucky you missed. Don't do anything else in this game or you're done. And hopefully he's not a knucklehead and he'll listen to you. And you'll have him in your back pocket.
just as a clarification, you're not going to have VAR in your games, right? So let's get past that. You have to go off of your base instinct, but if you are giving a yellow card, you can absolutely do what Cody said. Just be like, hey, that is a terrible challenge. Like orange card, you're getting a yellow, but if you put any more force behind it, or if you like actually make connection with, your studs on his shin, it's a red card every day. Jonathan, anything you wanted to add?
No, I love the point that Cody brought up, that this is an excellent moment to put a player, like you said, in your pocket or
In a box.
Yeah, in a box. I love using that analogy for a great deal of purposes. But in this case, you're putting that player, under your reins. Everybody on the field knows that his next, you put that line in the sand, and as long as you stick to that line in the sand, and as soon as he goes over it, you've won everybody's respect on the game, including the players that, potentially on his next challenge that you might be sending off. So kind of going back to Richard's point, once you put that line in the sand, you have to stick to it. And that's how you keep the respect of the players in this instant.
That was the last clip. Really short, sweet, and simple. So what I like to say at the end of all of my pre-games: questions, comments, concerns, verbal abuse. Any? Hopefully no verbal abuse. If there is, direct them towards Cody.
I'll take it.
I have another question, just not related to any of the videos, Cody. I didn't want to monopolize the Q&A previously, but if Richard allows it, I'd like to ask that question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, how do you handle sorry, that was my son in the background. How do you handle a spectator? The biggest harasser in the spectators is a fellow referee.
Oh.
So what is that person? So this is a perfect back to conflicts of interest. What is that person's role there today?
Yeah, he's a spectator, right? He's a parent.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But it's very disappointing that it's a fellow referee that's abusing you.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. So what do we do with that?
Well, you caution the coach, you warn the coach to handle the spectators. But is there something internally for us to, I don't know, report
my
him?
hand up.
Yes, actually, me and Jonathan were a part of one.
Okay.
Yes.
There is, I will not go into too many specifics, but there was a hearing done on the SRC's behalf against referees, two of them, for comments made to a fellow official. That was brought up to the assigner, who then escalated it further. So, if you find yourself in that kind of situation, I would highly advise you to file a supplemental report and inform your assigner. And make sure they follow through with it.
Yeah,
Because
I didn't
it
recognize.
is technically a violation of USSF policy.
Right.
Yes, it is.
It's a USS Code of Ethics for the referee.
Does that answer your question, Katie?
It does. I just didn't know the referee. It's just he claimed he was a referee. He could be lying. I don't know. He just goes, I am a referee. And I'm like, whatever. Just disappointed to hear that you are one, that you're behaving that way.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I find most people who claim that they're referees at games because they think they know it aren't actually referees.
Some of them are referees. They're just not good referees.
Also true.
Okay, anything else anybody got tonight, or are we all ready to go?
Yeah,
Ready to go. Oh, sorry.
I have a quick question. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about like these red card challenges or like the yellow. Most of our games are mod. The 9v9, U11, U12, the 7v7, U9, U8, U9, U10. So can you translate that was it the second clip, the cleat to the knee? Translate that down.
That was the
to
third clip.
Third clip. Translate that down to the mod game for us, perhaps.
So this presentation was focused a lot on cards, right? On challenges that equated to a card, red card, yellow card, etc. But at the end of the day, cards are one of the tools that we have in our tool belt. There's not very many games you're going to do where a player coming in with a straight leg and studs to the knee, where that's not going to end up being a red card, right? Even at the mod levels, like Dave Augustavo says, punish bad soccer. That's not even soccer. It's just a bad challenge, right?
Now, the
And
one
so-
thing that not a lot of referees talk about is how much control do these players actually have? A 9-year-old is not going to have the same control over their body as a professional soccer player or a player that's been playing at the ECNL level for 7+ years. So it's what Cameron said is true, but you also have to apply common sense to the game, right? Does this player truly have control over their body? Or do the players of this game truly have control over their body? Is one way to look at that.
And also think of it like especially like the U8, U9, U10 games, you are just as much of a coach to those players as their actual coaches. The coach is coaching them how to play the game, and you are there to coach them how to play the game within the confines of the laws of the game.
And have fun while doing that.
Yeah. So while yes, studs to the knee is probably a red card in every game in every league you're probably ever going to do, if you deem that it is not necessary in that game, what other tools can you use to work around that and still get the point across? Right? If you're not going to show a red card for that challenge, which by the way, I probably wouldn't advise. But if you're not, you can always just say, okay, young man, or young woman, young lady, let's come here. We're going to go over to the coach, and we're going to have your coach sub you off and keep you off of the field, because that is a terrible challenge and we cannot have that in the game. It's an option, just not one that falls within the confines of the laws of the game. There are options. Cards are one tool. Your voice is another. Whistle is another, right? You have a lot of different ways that you can manage the game. Pick the management style that's going to work for the situation that's being dealt with, and try to keep it within the laws of the game.
So Richard, I think I agree. You know, you're not going to see a lot of the type of plays on a mod game that we're showing clips on in here. I keep looking for them, but I still haven't been able to get very many because they just don't happen as much.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is a lot of this is great stuff that's maybe not quite applicable to the majority of the newer referees. So I really appreciate this discussion to help frame this discussion into this is what I'm going to see next weekend. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Typically when me and Cameron are doing like these video clips, we try and pull from academy level games like the ECNLs, EA, DPL, GA, because those are the games that the referees are probably going to be doing, and they're probably going to be able to relate to their own game better than a MLS or EPL game. So we try and keep it closer to what brand new referees are going to be doing. there's very rarely ever video for mod games. Very hard to find those videos. And if you do find them, it's just a bundle of joy to watch, and there's no real talking points. So the conversation is pretty much required for these kind of video sessions.
Okay, I think we're gonna call it a night. I'm ready to go dive into my emails that I haven't responded to yet. So I want to thank everyone for sticking around to the end.
Hey guys,
and,
it's me, Chunker Hemsley. I just wanted to talk about. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh.
we'll see you guys all in a month from now. Thanks so much.
Good night, Richard.
That was entertaining to be Zoom bombed multiple times.
Oh, gosh.
Well, at least we're
Hey, Richard, I actually have collected a couple of clips from the